Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. It begins with a scientist developing a supersoldier virus, but it escapes the lab and infects part of Earth's population. They mutate into a new species called hemophages, which have all the characteristics of a vampire but walk around freely in sunlight. Once infected, they only have 12 years to live and were allowed to walk among the public as long as they wore armbands. When humans discover they're unable to cure the infection, they form a joint world government called the Arch Ministry to deal with the problem. It's a militant medical facility focused on exterminating the vampires and have already run their numbers down under the leadership of Vice Cardinal Daxus. Despite their low numbers and underground resistance of hemophages use highly advanced flat space technology that allows weapons to practically disappear. One team break inside the compound and takes out all of the scientists in an attempt to sabotage their vat of experimental blood. They walk straight into an ambush where a SWAT team wait to mow them down before 3 detectives enter to investigate the scene. The virus is so contagious when one of the agents gets mutant blood on his bare skin, he's immediately shot dead as he's already infected. 12 years ago, the main character Violet's husband was killed and the attacking vampire's blood spray caused her to become a hemophage but lose her unborn baby. She joined the resistance and what's called the Blood Wars that followed, which leads to going undercover as a courier at a government lab called the Blood Bank. Using meta-suppressants, she passes all their security checks on her way to stealing the company's new weapon, which is supposedly capable of eliminating every hemophage on the planet. The Blood Bank think Violet's delivering the contents of a briefcase to the Arch Ministry, but her true identity's revealed when the real courier arrives. She breaks her contact's arm before proceeding to easily handle all of the vault guards with her bare hands, who don't stand a chance against her kind. The rest probably could have just kept her trapped in the vault, but decide to open the door and enter just to get their butts kicked and leave it wide open. Violet also carries around 2 flattening auto pistols that appear from her body and a chisel-shaped sword that's etched in a made-up Asian language called Thai Hindi. Her gravity leveler allows Violet to take the fight to the ceiling, making for plenty of confusing moments where you don't know which way is up until you see somebody else. She escapes dropping upwards through a skylight before fleeing the facility on her bike while in possession of the ultimate weapon against her kind. She leads a police chase through the city that sees the Grav Tech take her whole bike up the side of vehicles and buildings to get away. When the ground units are unable to get the job done, they call in an attack chopper that Violet is unable to shake by just going vertical. She gets a run up while the gunner reloads and jumps straight through the cabin, shooting everyone on board and landing in the offices on the opposite side. When commanded by her superior Nerva to destroy the case to prevent the humans from reobtaining it, Violet refuses to comply as she's already escaped capture. She intends to bring it to the rebels at their headquarters in the Needle, but while on the elevator ride, curiosity gets the best of her and she opens the case. It contains a human child named Six, so Violet angrily brings him to Nerva, thinking that she just wasted her time searching for a weapon. The vampire leader explains how the boy's blood contains antigens that could kill them if the humans find a way to atomize his tissue into the atmosphere. Violet disapproves of killing him and says that the child could be used to create an antidote to the virus for people who don't want to be like them. Nerva doesn't care and puts a bullet between the boy's eyes before realizing he's only a hologram and Violet's protecting Six out of sentimentality. She kills her fellow hemophages while escaping the building, but on the rooftop she gets surrounded by another security force. Thankfully, this one goes down even easier as Violet's able to dodge all of their bullets and they take each other out with crossfire instead of just not shooting. Along with the inevitably traumatized boy, she escapes the Needle but gets confronted outside in her car by the arriving Daxus. He says that the boy's actually his son and was raised all of his life in a government lab. But Violet realizes he's just stalling for time until more of his guards can arrive, so she reverses over them and drives off. The pair abandon their vehicle and flee into the subway, where Violet sees just how little the boy knows about the world and wants to protect him more. Six has kept it a secret from Daxus that he's able to talk, but trusts Violet, who says that if they're ever cornered by the Arch Ministry, then she'll kill him. She brings Six to her vampire friend Garth so that he can isolate the antigen supposed to kill hemophages and get it to work with an antidote. Meanwhile, Nerva and the remaining resistance at the Needle use the shadows to take out Daxus' SWAT team and capture him alone. The president of the world's even faster than the vampires and outdraws 3 of them with a reference to the wise monkeys, but leaves Nerva alive. Eventually, Garth discovers that the boy doesn't actually possess any vampire antigen and instead his body is deteriorating with only 8 hours left to live. He did write down a formula on a piece of paper though, but Garth needs time to figure it out and Violet needs to leave. The boy's outfitted with a tracking device, so his protector must keep moving around before Dax catches up with them. They're immediately located in a crowded shopping mall, so knowing that they're never going to stop, Six chooses to lead them in a different direction so Violet can escape. She has a change of heart and despite his short lifespan returns to keep protecting Six, but he's snatched away by Nerva. The vampire has thrown in with the Arch Ministry, so Violet chases him to an old church where 2 of his hemophage buddies wait to confront her. They claim to be just as strong as Violet, but none of them ever seem to display it, and she easily defeats them both with hair-related combos. She chases Nerva inside the church where he waits with his cohort of vampires and Six suspended over an empty well. He explains that Six doesn't really contain any antigens against hemophages, but one against the whole human race that they plan to weaponize. Since he's only bluffing about killing the boy, Violet doesn't surrender and instead cuts down the entire room of like-minded fighters with a single spin of her sword. Despite still needing the kid, the sore loser Nerva drops him out of spite, but Violet runs her sword through his head and catches Six before he splats. When they leave, she receives a call from Daxus, who reveals that Six is actually just a clone of himself and is the sixth in a series of 8. Since he's only a kid, Violet still wants revenge for what Daxus has done to him, and in the minutes before Six dies, she drives to the Archministry. She has two options: either to watch Six die or try to kill Daxus and his 700 armed soldiers, which will inevitably subject Six to watching her die instead. It appears like she chooses the latter when pulling up to the headquarters, and Daxus gives the only logical response, which is to ask if she's stupid. The small army opens fire, completely tearing apart the car, but Violet's a hologram, as she's opted for the decision to just let the kid die instead. After playing at the park, Six dies in Violet's arms, and Daxus arrives to salvage the body before he shoots Violet dead and leaves her for a cleanup crew. Garth manages to intercept her as part of the incendiary team and is able to take Violet home before her body's destroyed. He resuscitates the vamp, but she goes into a long depression over Six dying until recovering when she realizes that he's still alive. She plans to bust him out of the Archministry, where Daxus is about to cut him up and move the antigen into a different clone with a longer lifespan. Garth tries to talk Violet out of getting herself killed when he informs her that the formula Six wrote down is a cure for hemophagia. She appreciates it, but she'd rather save Six and attacks the Archministry with dozens of flattened guns that she uses to slaughter the lobby off screen. She then takes out an entire room of ninjas who, like the guards on the rooftop, mostly kill each other with varying levels of assistance from Violet. The final guy comes in hot with a dramatic entrance like he's going to do something, but is tripped over and stabbed in the face with a broken blade. After another spontaneous color change, Violet enters the library, where a guard's just standing there by himself with no chance. More guards enter, so the hemophage massacres another room using 2 flattened Mac 11s with mini katanas for the magazines. Once the room is all dead and snowing paperbacks, Violet cauterizes her wounds with the burning barrel of her gun and continues going. She kills the last batch of security off screen and finally reaches Daxus, who's now all alone but not about to go down without a fight. He wields a mini flamethrower, but Violet uses her blood to put out the pilot light, and it just squirts fuel from now on. Blood gets on Daxus's bare skin, but if you haven't realized, he's already been a hemophage, which is why he's able to keep up with Violet in their sword fight. He reveals that he was the lab assistant who released the virus in order to become a vampire and gain control over the weak-minded world governments. He switches off all the lights as he's able to see in absolute darkness, unlike Violet's mutation, but she sets her sword on fire to maintain vision. They continue fighting until both blades have caught fire, and Violet drops her own as a distraction to get behind him. She then shoots the vice cardinal with his own flamethrower, setting him on fire before slicing him cleanly down the middle. With the president now dead, Violet carries Six to the rooftop, where he wakes up surprised to even still be alive. A flashback reveals that before he was taken away, one of Violet's tears fell in his own eye, infecting Six, and he's now a hemophage. Violet's at the end of her mutant lifespan, but with Garth working on an antidote, they intend to cure themselves before their 12 years of vampire runs out. And the movie ends.